Yes, hello, and thanks for the intro, Kisu. It was very nice. Um, and hello to Frontend Nation 2025. Good to be back again. This year, we'll talk about accessibility again, and about the topic of keyboard accessibility. We will go over topics like focus rings, focus straps, as my talk is titled. And yeah, without further ado, let's go. So keyboard accessibility and focus. First, we'll go over people using the web with a keyboard, shortcuts, interactive elements, focus rings, focus straps, and if we have time for it, we will even go over tab index. So yeah, a lot of people use the keyboard only to navigate websites and apps, web apps. These include people with motor disabilities, vision issues, including blindness. For example, when you have a broken arm, or while quickly filling out a form, and that's me as well. So my name is Tim Damen. I'm a front-end developer working for ABN AMRO, which is a Dutch bank. I'm an accessibility lead there as well, and I advocate for accessibility for accessibly creating new features for the web. I also run a podcast called Focus Strap, and I'm a husband and proud father of a daughter, and I'm also passionate about going outdoors on adventures. Keyboard accessibility. Keyboard accessibility is about ensuring everything that can be done with the mouse can be done with the keyboard as well. And you have also other devices that act as a keyboard. These are like custom input devices. For example, someone sitting in a wheelchair. And sometimes these people are fully paralyzed and input mobile devices or web applications via a straw, which they can blow in, and then the amount of air that passes through um, makes it input different keys. These kinds of devices, custom keyboards, are also presented as a keyboard to the web. Um, so yeah, so people who don't use a mouse, they use the focus styles to see where they are going. So in this example, I will show you on screen. Um, let's see. Yeah, there they are. I hope they are visible. Um, So the first example, I show a paragraph right now on the screen, and in the paragraph is an link. So in this case, it's lorem ipsum link. And when I go to the link with my keyboard navigation, the link is focused. And you see a focus ring. When I go to the next element, to the button which says submit, you can see also that the focus ring goes through this button, and I can click on it as well with my keyboard. What you need to remember when you're developing on the web, when you're creating new elements that can receive focus, um, and you have a lot of them on the web page. For example, you have a lot of buttons or a lot of links or a lot of different other elements that can receive focus. You always need to take into account if the order is sensible. So if you do not have too many stops or too less, or that the tab stops are spread out in an unlogical way. Yeah, these are all things to take into account for keyboard accessibility. And keyboard accessibility can be, you can see it like this. You can see that we are walking on the sidewalk, and it's dark outside, and in the distance you can see a light. A lantern is shining, and it's shining on the sidewalk, so we can see where we are going. So this is very nice. This is actually the same what we do with the focus ring, with keyword navigation. The people using keyword navigation can see where they are going. They can see um, the things that they are doing. And another nice example of, or way to think about focus rings and keyword accessibility is the use of a smart TV. So a smart TV, you generally don't have a mouse, but you have a remote, and you use the keyboard on the remote to navigate. And what happens when you navigate on the smart TV? Normally, you see some kind of focus styling. So on the screen, you can see that the movies button now has some shadow on the background, because this is the highlighted button, and it also gets a little bigger than the other ones. This is some kind of focusing styling. What happens sometimes is that people who don't know what the focus ring is for, or by mistake remove the styling of the focus ring completely. This is very bad practice. And if you see that this happened in one of your applications or in one of your future applications, please revert it and try to come up with a nice focus ring styling. And I have to be honest, I might have removed uh, a few of these focus rings on my web apps, like when I was starting out. So yeah, if this happens, if this is currently the case in your application, please revert it. And why should you revert it? Because yeah, you also wouldn't steal their cursor, but that's basically the equivalent of removing a focus ring. It's like removing the cursor for the other users. You wouldn't do that, because then it wouldn't be great application. This is actually a great presentation by Laura in 2018. Highly recommended. So some of the basics of keyword navigation. I've listed them on the screen right now. You already, uh, well, watched me tap or shift tap to a link and a button. So in between the two, I used tap and shift tap to move back. So tap to go forward, shift tap to go backwards. And you can activate elements like buttons or links with the enter key on the keyboard. Sometimes you can also use spacebar, for example, on buttons or select boxes, or for example, you might have used it to pause a YouTube video somehow. Escape can also be used to close certain elements like modals, navigation menus, or other types of popovers. Then we have the arrow keys, which can occasionally be used to move between elements as well. I will showcase this in a future slide with checkboxes and radio buttons. Or no, only with radio buttons, but I will show it in a short while. So what is a good focus style? You just, in a previous slide, saw me show the focus ring. And the focus ring should be visible. Should be visible on a lot of different backgrounds. So you can style the focus ring to your liking on the web. If you don't style the focus ring on your app, then it will have the default styling of the browser. And this can be a different color on a different browser. For example, Safari and Chrome, they don't have the same focus styling. But generally speaking, it's good practice to come up with your own focus ring styling. But you should take into account that it needs to be visible always, and it should have a high enough contrast against adjacent colors. And the focus ring should be consistent, so it shouldn't change colors when you go to a different page or when you go over a different element. And a good way to do this is, for example, with this small piece of CSS, which I will highlight right now. When I hit tab, I go on and focus the first link. And I've styled the focus ring with the CSS you see on the right. Now on this first paragraph, this is, by the way, this is called the Oreo focus style. And this is created by Eric Cruz, or at least the example I used is shared by Eric Cruz. And you can see that there are 3 paragraphs on the screen right now with, in the paragraphs, different links. So 3 links as well. And the first has a white background. The paragraph has a white background. And you can see that our focus ring styling is black. And it has 2 rings, you can see now. So this is very visible. White on black has the highest contrast possible, like 1:25, I guess. So this is very nice. If I hit tab and I go to the gray background, something different happens already. You can see something different happening. So you can see white and black. So basically, this is how you really can see the Oreo in the in this focus ring, because also there's white rings, but you just didn't see them when I was focusing on the top one. But now that we are on gray, you can actually see them. So there actually are 4 rings, and now you can only see the white one. On the black background, you can only see the white one. Using this focus ring styling, you make sure that on 99.9% of the time, against every background you might have on your web app, you can see the focus ring styling. What is good to know, and what might seem obvious, is that one thing at a time can have focus. So there no multitasking, just one by one element at a time has the focus. And what can have focus on a web app? These are called the interactive elements. You might know a few, for example, a button or a link or an input element, a details element, a select box. These are default HTML elements that can receive focus by default. And these are also the interactive HTML elements. And we will try a few. So hitting tab to go to the first element, and you can see that they use the Oreo focus styling right now. I can click on spacebar to press the button. And if I go to the next element, to the link, I can hit enter and click on the link. This is a nice one. So this is not frequently used, but there is a default color picker in HTML, which you can which can receive focus and which also can be interacted with by hitting spacebar or enter. I use spacebar right now. And then a color picker opens and you can actually change the color by hitting the keyboard. I'm now holding the down button and now I'm holding the left button. And to input this element, to input this input field, I hit enter and now the color changed. So we open it again and we can actually hit tab to go to different elements on this color picker. I now use again the keyboard and the arrow keys. Let's select green and hit enter. All right. So this input element is fully keyboard accessible, which is nice. I can also hit spacebar and close it with escape, like I showed. And now I also close my slide. All right. Let's go to the next element, which are the radio buttons and the checkbox. Radio buttons are also a nice one. So I'm currently selecting, I'm on the radio button. And if you mark up your radio buttons correctly in a field set, then it's also possible to, when you are in a radio button selection, you can use the keyboard to go from left to right or top to bottom. Let's select. No, I love it. And with checkboxes, you cannot use the keyboard. You cannot use the arrow keys, but you can use tab or shift tab to go to the next checkbox. And we will select them all, of course. So in the case some team member or some past team member removed the focus styling and you can't seem to get it back, you can just dump this code into the debugger, into the into your browser, and a console log will be added to you when you shift focus. Nice tip. Yeah, you can also change focus with JavaScript. So you just add dot focus after an element, and this receives focus with JavaScript, which you only should do when you know what you're doing. Shifting the focus with JavaScript sometimes is good practice. I will show a few examples later, but generally speaking, if it if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't know what should receive focus at what point, and you generally want to make something custom and focus something, please do some research on because you're basically changing default behavior most of the time, which is not desired by people using keyboard accessibility. So the focus trap. Now we're getting to the point of why my talk was called "Stuck in a Focus Trap," because what is a focus trap and when do we need it? So a focus trap um, is called a focus trap because we can also trap the focus inside a larger element on a web page, basically. And this, generally speaking, is done in like a pop-up modal or a big navigation model or like a full screen alert. Why is this needed? Well, the web evolved a lot the last yeah, uh, 10 years. The web used to be very simple starting out. We had just a static web page with links and buttons and maybe a form, and not a lot of like um, subscriber and newsletter pop-ups, cookie banners, um, dynamic navigation, error messages, information messages, popover, all that kind of stuff didn't exist. And with these new these new features on the web, you also need new ways of making things accessible. So when you have like a big pop-up on a screen, it basically covers the whole web app. And when you, for example, have the focus inside of this model, and you are at the last interactive element of this model, and you go to the next interactive element on your web page, it might happen that you go underneath of your model or whatever is covering the screen on the top layer. So in this case, it's good practice. It's actually required by the accessibility standards called the WCAG, is that you trap the focus inside of this custom element. Let's call it a model. You go not underneath, but you go to the top interactive element inside of this model. A lot of code now, yeah. But if you want a custom JavaScript implementation of creating a focus trap, this is a nice article by Hede de Vries. Link is down in the bottom right now. Make a screenshot or go there right now. This is a good way to add a focus trap to a custom element. Yeah, please use carefully because you don't want to trap someone in your website and don't let them like continue their flow. But for some occasions like models, it's a very nice thing to add. Yeah. But we also now currently, luckily, we also have another option. We don't have to use custom JavaScript code like you just have seen, but we also now have the dialog element, the dialog HTML element. And I will showcase it in the next slide. The dialog element became more popular the last few years because Safari finally fully accepted it. So it's now accepted into all of the major browsers, which is nice. You can do, for example, you can add it by default, or you can very easily add a focus trap to it. It's quite accessible by default, so I will showcase it right now. So I have two implementations of a model in this slide. One, and we are going to test them on accessibility features. And I've listed the 4 things we are going to test. First one is the model should open, the model should have a focus trap. So the focus should not go underneath of the model. The first focusable element, the first focusable element in the model should receive focus once we open the model. Close the model with escape. And when a model is closed, focus should return to the element that opened the model. So that will be the buttons you see underneath here. So I will select by keyboard the first button and click space. So what we see right now, so we opened the model, and this is the non-dialog model. This is like a custom model own implementation. And you can see that the focus shifted to the first interactive element in the model on the submit button. That's nice. That's good. That's good. Let's test if the model has a focus trap. We will go to the next element. That works. Close button. And now when we tap again, what is a focus trap is that the focus should go to the next to the first interactive element in the model, but that doesn't happen. So now we can go underneath. We can go back to the and now you don't even see what I'm focusing. I'm probably focusing these buttons here. Yeah. You can see they are now being focused. So we can go underneath of the model. That's not good. Can we close the model with escape? No, we cannot. We can close the model with clicking close, enter. The element that opened the model does receive focus, so that's nice. So 2 out of 2 of the points work. Now we use the dialog HTML model, open it with enter, and we testing the focus trap, and this has a focus trap. So what happens? The focus shifts towards the last interactive element, to the URL, to the first interactive element. This is good. But can we close it with escape as well? Yeah, we can. Only my slides are closing too. So that's good. And the first interactive element gets focus, and when we click close, the element that opened the model gets focus again. So all points scored. Now we're briefly going to touch tab index. So the HTML tab index attribute allows to use custom focus order. So it allows you to customize the focus order. This is a feature that you need to use with caution, because again, you don't want to change up the focus order where it comes something that is not logical for someone using the keyboard navigation. But I will show you more about tab index. So the tab index attribute. The attribute specifies the tab order of an element. It can have 3 different values, basically, 0, -1, or a +1. A +1 can be like 2, 3, whatever, or what you want. So positive values. And I will show you what these values do. So the normal tab order, where you don't have any tab index like added, will go from top to bottom, from left to right, like so. All of the elements, interactive elements on the screen, get a focus from left to right. With tab index, one of the features with tab index you can do is make non-interactive elements focusable. So when you add, for example, tab index 0 to a div, you can make this div, you can add this div to the focus order. So this div will be added to the focus order in the order the elements are placed within the DOM. So in this case, you can see that I've added 2 divs with tab index 0. And when I click tab again, and tap again, you can see that we go from top to bottom. And the elements can receive also focus when I click on them with the keyboard, with the mouse. And to really show that these are divs, I can also show the code. Because I'm using slide Yes. On the right side. I'm not sure if you can see it. By the way, yeah, I guess again, yeah. 2 divs on the screen. So now we go to minus values. When you use a tab index with a minus value, you the element that you have added the tab index -1, for example 2, can receive focus, but it will not be added to the focus order. So I now focus on the first link, the first interactive element on this slide, then to the next one, which is the button. But I've added -1 to this div, and when I click, for example, on the button, I can add dot focus, and I can add the dot focus JavaScript implementation, and I can focus the div as well. And to again show that this is a div, this is the div, and this is the code I've used to focus it, which is very hard coded, but it gets the job done. So when would you want to do this? Basically, when you're creating a custom feature, and you need to manage the focus manually. For example, when you submit a form and you have like a summary of all the different errors that are currently in the form, you can shift the focus to the wrapper div that summarizes all of these errors. This could be like an implementation example, or any type of other custom element you want to receive, to be able to receive focus but not add to the focus order. And then we have the positive tab index values, and I recommend that you don't ever use this because it's very customizable, and you can basically do everything with the values 0 and minus. But and this will basically be a very custom focus order. But to showcase it, we are now in the button with tab index 1, and so this receives, as you might have might can tell, this will receive the focus first, then the second one in an illogical way is left bottom, which has value 2. And now we are going back to the top, and this button does not have tab index. So with positive values, you can basically customize the focus order like completely, and this should only be done when you really know what you're doing. This is generally speaking not recommended to do, and it's also very hard to maintain because you need to take into account all of these positive values, which is very hard, and yeah, can also lead to undesired focus traps. So we're almost at the end of the presentation. Quickly go over the different things we spoke about. We started with people that are using the web with a keyboard. Talked about different shortcuts and the ways keyboard navigation works. Talked about the different interactive elements, focus rings, focus traps, and of course tap index, which we just covered. Moderator, already going to thank you for your attention. Like I said, I'm running, hosting the Focus Trap podcast. I'm uploading episodes regularly. Already got 10 ready. If you're interested, you can scan the QR. For example, I've hosted this podcast with Guillermo, which is a staff engineer at Stack Overflow, and he talked about the accessibility transition that Stack Overflow undertook, was very nice to hear about and to get these insights. So yeah, please check it out. And I'm also happy to stay connected with each and every one of you. You can reach out to me, ask me questions, or anything you want. You can find me on LinkedIn or my website, which is linked at the bottom. And yeah, this was it. Thank you.
Hey,
And
thanks a lot, Jim. There are indeed a lot of features to the focus part of it, and I'm also very glad to see that you got a discussion with someone from Stack Overflow, because they are indeed quite on the higher spectrum of good practices, because it's quite an accessible website with a lot of shortcuts. So yeah, always good to see. But yeah, thanks again for your talk. We have a few questions. I'd say that this one's my favorite so far. How do you handle focus management in SPAs?
so what is nice about, well, of course, single page applications, they just act like normal non single page applications, basically, which in the end, you just add your HTML to the DOM. It will get rendered, and there will be interactive elements, and all of the good practices I talked about. You should take them into account, and um, it will be mostly keyword accessible.
But don't you have any into like reactivity issues where, for example, given the life cycle of some functions, then it breaks or you can lose focus?
So with single page applications, there normally is a lot of JavaScript involved.
Yeah.
Because you will be in a framework using like Vue or React or Angular or any of the big ones. Um, and generally speaking, keyword accessibility is not taken into account that well. So or the styling is off or things like that happen. Yeah, these are all things that you can check out. Single page applications generally are known lately to have like problems when switching between like routings, like doing navigation, for
Yeah.
example, that the next page is not properly announced because it's a single page. Um, um, but in Vue and Nux, that's fixed, I think, since last year. So all good.
Okay. Uh, Good to know then. Do you have any specific standards that developers should adhere to regarding the WCAG? Because
Yeah,
again, there it's like a broad topic, so maybe a few.
there are a few ones. So you have the focus ring styling, and I'm trying to search for the exact WCAG number. Um, But it's this success criteria basically tells you more about how you should style, and basically the contrast between the adjacent background colors or button colors. Um, yeah, it's the 2-4-13, or no, it's the 2-4-7 one. And this will tell you more about, well, the contrast you need to have, for example. And also there's a success criteria about like the sensible order of like navigation. So the navigation shouldn't shift from top left to top bottom and then to the middle, and then but it should go from top to bottom, from left to right.
Also, I guess that, for example, if you have a website where you have a nav and then the content, the first tab should not be like, oh yeah, index and then blog and then news, but straight go to the page itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What also is a nice one is the skip link success criteria.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the first link in a nav, there will like appear a skip link button, which if you click it with keyboard navigation, you skip over the navigation, because the navigation generally has a lot of interactive elements which you need to go over by with like tapping over it multiple times or a lot of times, and this can be cumbersome. So, for example, web apps now, generally speaking, have implemented this skip link feature, which skip basically the navigation and skip you to the main content of the page. For example, GitHub has implementation. You can check it out.
Wait, now I'm curious. Because for the audience that maybe never saw that, that's either you get the focus straight where needed, or otherwise it's named skip to main content.
Yeah,
Also, I guess.
I can show it if I.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me see. Yeah. So.
Okay, indeed.
You can see that I'm now focusing the URL, and the first interactive element on the GitHub page is skip to content. And if I click enter right now, I'm in the main content and I'm focusing like the main content on the page and not the navigation anymore. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the quick demo. And thanks again for your talk, Tim. A lot of very helpful insights for people like us that are maybe not that versed into accessibility, but it's also a very important topic. So thanks again. And I wish you an amazing day.
Yeah. Same to you. All the best. And hope to see everyone next year again.
Yes.